Hello there.
Super Wild Jellyfish here, and yes, this is my new avatar, James. He's a jelly fox. Yeah, I'm really pushing the ground here, huh? Today I want to talk about 5 albums that exceeded expectations. You see a lot of lists on YouTube going over games that didn't live up to the hype and unsatisfying final seasons of critically acclaimed television shows, so I thought, hey, why not cover a more positive form of expectations? By the way, this video is being recorded using voice memos because I need to get this out rather quick due to the major changes in the channel's design. I am sorry about the subpar audio quality. Before we get started, however, it is October, so let me just change the shirt. Ah, much better. And with that, welcome to 21 Pilots are a duo I've been a huge fan of since 2016, so to say I was hyped for Trench would be underselling the build up to Trench. The fan base was starving for a new album, with nothing being released for a whole year and a half as the band were on hiatus. So when Jumpsuit finally drops in mid-July of 2018, with the announcement of Trench alongside it, a shockwave was sent across the fan base, and when the album came out, critics and fans fell in love instantly. Trench sounds bold and exciting. Tyler's vocals were the best they have ever been. The lore embedded within the lyrics were rich with detail, and the production was some of the best sounding production to not just come out that year, but maybe even the decade. Yeah, the album was pretty good, with honestly no weak tracks at all. It feels genuinely wrong to talk about this album in a format where I can't explain in full detail why I love every track. So instead I'll do the next worst thing. Rank this masterpiece from worst to best.
For you, I go step to a dude much bigger than me.
Easily the most adorable song the band has ever released. It does feel a tad bit unnecessary, placement and sound-wise, but I honestly wouldn't remove it at all. Yes, this is the worst track. Part of me feels this is a controversial placement, but I feel every placement here is controversial. So Nico and the Niners is fantastic. The sound is twisted, the lyrics are drenched in lore, and the rap at the end is the cherry on top. But the main thing that drags it down for me is the sound. It just doesn't grab me nearly as much as the other songs on Trench in comparison. I specifically say in comparison because it is still phenomenal.
I've got a pet cheetah down in my basement. I've raised him and bathed him and named him Jason.
I don't have much to say about this track. It's the most abrasive song the band have ever made, but after hearing how much further abrasive sounds can go in general, it doesn't wow me nearly as much as it used to. It's still a fantastic track, but I wish it hit just a little bit harder. An existential banger of a track. Morph dives into themes of changing into someone you're not and the various beliefs around what happens after death. To soften the blow of the subject matter, the instrumentation and slick flows on this track provide a fun, fast-paced adventure with, of course, the obligatory mention of Josh Dun.
I'll go with you.
My Blood is a disco-inspired, heartfelt track about family and loyalty, and it bops hard. Josh's drumming is a lot of fun here, and Tyler's vocals throughout are rather beautiful, showcasing a major improvement to Tyler's already incredible vocals. The song starting and ending in the same wondrous fashion is also a nice touch too.
I don't believe the hype.
Like Trench, the hype exceeds itself as a groovy, exciting banger, encouraging the listener to maintain hope through difficult times. Its placement on the album is perfect, working both as a breather and a mood change after the heavy neon gravestones. It's also the only other track on the album other than Jumpsuit to feature Tyler screaming, which is a major thing to note since unlike Vessel and Blurryface, Trench has a lot less screaming but much more dopamine triggering screams instead. Tyler sounds magnificent here. A slow yet instrumentally gorgeous landscape. Cut My Lip is one hell of a track, following Nico and the Niners smoothly. Every sound in this track is indescribably breathtaking, showcasing the very best of Mute Math's Paul Meany's contribution to the album. One of the catchiest hooks is here too, that being Even though this isn't my favourite track, I can understand it being Tyler's and many other fans' favourite. More Trench lore and a simply glorious soundscape to boot, Bandito is a major standout in the track listing. The Sola Felina build-up leading to the final segment is one of the most beautiful 21 Pilots moments ever, and the payoff, while not as explosive as a track like Holding On To You or Goner, is always satisfying to re-listen to. I honestly find it hilarious that I found this track to be an unsatisfying closer on first listen, because these days I cannot imagine Trench ending any other way. Leave the City perfectly wraps up the story of Trench, leaving the story open for more lore exploration but still wrapping up the album with a neat bow. Josh's drumming is at its most subdued here, with only a piano and the electronic production to back up the majority of the mix, but it's fitting for the ballad that the album wants to end off on. Most alt-rock projects in the 2010s didn't really earn their ballad endings whatsoever and got cliche up to a point, looking at you, Brendan Urie, but the lads earned it here, especially considering just how much this stands out from the rest.
You're a legend in my own mind.
I'm not gonna lie, this track never fails to make me cry. Legends is not a sad song, it's a celebration of the life of Tyler's grandfather.
He passed away last year, and if there was one thing that he taught me, it's that it's worth it to keep on fighting all the way to the bitter end.
And as a tribute, it is one of the sweetest and most emotional tributes I've ever heard. And that last lyric, just thinking about it makes me want to weep. It hits hard in the most beautiful way possible.
Don't feed me to the vultures, I am a vulture who feeds on pain.
To anyone who thinks Tyler can't rap fast while spitting bars, may I introduce you to Levitate? Levitate features Tyler's best rapping to ever grace a 21 Pilots album. The mix of Trench lore, references to past projects, and the production to top it all off. I don't listen to playlists often, but if this came on, I would never skip it. Of course, when listening to the album as a whole, I never really skip this track, but this is the only track on Trench I don't tend to revisit standalone. Neon Gravestones is the most important song the band has ever released. It is up there as one of the best anti-suicide pieces of media out there. The sound of the track is hauntingly dark, and the lyrics touch on issues that so many more people need to hear. Every time I hear that someone was saved by a bad song being there for them in a dark time, this one is especially powerful to hear about. And to this day, my respect towards Tyler and Josh looking out for their fan base, making this song, will never be lost on me.
Sipping on straight glory.
I won't lie, this was the one track that dragged for me when I first heard Trench. A 5+ minute 21 Pilots song like this sounds like something that could really work or really fall flat on its face. Considering the placement of this track though, it is safe to say that it has grown incredibly. Structure and production are the words of the day here. The way Chlorine structures its verses, bridges, choruses with the sound offered in each one is what makes it shine bright in the track listing as one of the band's most unique and aesthetically sublime tracks. I don't care this was the lead single. While this song is not my favourite 21 Pilots song, that title goes to Holding On To You. Jumpsuit is the best 21 Pilots song. It still blows me away to this day. The luscious guitar, the electrifying drumming, and the scream at the end that still reminds me how ecstatic I was on the day that it dropped. Jumpsuit is without a doubt the best song on Say, is something... The fourth studio album by industrial noise rock band Daughters, You Won't Get What You Want, is a terrifying, dirty, in-your-face, psychotic display of anger, insanity, and mental illness. And the way that the band executes all of these sounds leaves the listener with their breath taken away. Talking highlights on this album is tricky because all of these tracks are phenomenal, but the opening City song is a major standout. It's a slow burner with snare hits that sound like gunshots and a vivid landscape built by drones and Alexis Marshall's broken, wounded voice, leading to an explosive switch up right at the end that sucker punches you to oblivion. Another standout is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Less Sex. This track is a mix of blues and twisted industrial solos following repeating yet almost hypnotizing lyrics. Funnily enough, I view it like a breather, but calling it a breather is like calling the perfect day scene in Trainspotting a breather. It is still shrouded in dirt and darkness despite the beauty found in the track playing. Some of my favorite tracks on this album, other than the aforementioned, all share the similarity of being terrifying powerhouses of sound. The shortest track, The Flammable Man, keeps its intense energy throughout the entire track, introducing one of the main themes of the album, that being the ocean, ending off with the repeated mantra. The reason they hate me explodes into the listener's face, implementing strings that sound like a twisted version of the Psycho theme with drums, vocals, and guitars all fighting each other to the death. It's exhilarating to listen to every time. And of course, there's no way I can't mention Guest House, one of the most explosive and terrifying endings to an album I have ever heard. Every track in this album passes and each track becomes a new favorite, but Guest House takes the crown as not only one of the best tracks on the album, but also one of the best closers I've ever heard. As an experience, every single listen is terrifying. You could say this album is so terrifying that I could have a fear of keen eyes probably noticed the main background of this video being the classic album cover for Talking Heads' third studio album, Fear of Music. The second Talking Heads album to be produced by the legendary Brian Eno. Fear of Music delves into a dystopian landscape with dark, existential themes seeping into the lyrics while the instrumentals sound lively, playful, and very catchy. This juxtaposition is effortlessly implemented throughout the track listing, while at the same time, the album's sound and themes can match as well. Heaven and Animals, both being 2 tracks after one another, sound exactly how their titles imply. Heaven featuring a heavenly an existential sonic landscape, while Animals features a primal atmosphere with Burn making sporadic and wild sounds, while Ranting as a supposed character with paranoia as a funky beat marches along. Another example is Drugs, the slow, nauseating and trippy closer to the album, which builds an uncertain wave-like atmosphere. The instrumentation behind this track feels like being hypnotized by the waves of the ocean as Burn's character loosely details what's going on around him. Other major highlights include the funky Dadaism-inspired Izimbra, the fast and sporadic cities, and the gorgeous, somewhat foreboding air. The whole album culminates into a fun yet complex outing from the band and serves as another classic in the Talking Heads catalogue, which still holds up fantastically to this day. And speaking of finely aged wines, I tend to be BAM! Now, yes, I know, this is an actual lyric on the album, but come on, Yeezus is mind-blowing. For an album released in 2013, it legit sounds like something that could have dropped today. The production on this is the best I've heard on any Kanye album, with a mix of industrial and abrasive experimental bangers, one after another. The Daft Punk produced tracks On Sight, Black Skinhead, I Am a God, and Send It Up are all huge standouts, featuring insane, abrasive beats that are infectiously groovy. They are all incredibly adventurous, each exploring sounds unique to the rest found on the album. Hold My Liquor and Blood on the Leaves are introspective, aesthetically rich, somber highlights, and Bound 2 might just be my favorite Kanye song at the moment. The glitchy, beautiful sample, the passionate lyrics on display, and that chorus. Now, while these songs production-wise sound glorious, I'm In It and Guilt Trip are easily the worst songs here, lyric-wise. I'm not going to go into detail why, because you just either need to listen to it or look at the lyrics to understand why. The songs still sound fantastic, but it is worth bringing up that they aren't perfect. What is perfect, however, is Released in 2014 by experimental noise rock outfit Swans, To Be Kind is nothing short of a masterpiece, cementing itself as the best album I've ever heard. The more and more I listen to this album, the more I find myself surrendering my soul to the pummeling yet gorgeous soundscapes featured here. It is literally impossible for me to explain how some of these tracks make me feel other than pure divine ecstasy. The lyrics are cryptic, yet you find yourself so desperate to understand what they mean. Each track stands out with its own take on raw, abrasive noise rock perfection. I can't talk about any of these tracks in this format because I'd have way too much to say. All I will implore you to do is put on screenshot, crank up the volume, and get ready to experience a journey that will leave you wanting more. And if you do want more, I highly recommend diving into Swan's discography, especially their 2010s work if you love To Be Kind that much. And those are 5 albums that exceeded expectations. What 5 albums exceeded your expectations? Be sure to leave your comments in the comment section below, and to returning viewers, yes, I am not dead. I actually started a 1-year college diploma all about media, and the reason why I mention that is because I am actually being allowed to choose YouTube as my creative endeavor. So yes, I now have even more of a reason to get off my ass and make videos other than my arrogant brain barely nagging me to do so. I won't promise because I can't keep upload promises, but I will try my best to release a reaction in November, because November has one album I'm keeping my eye on keenly. And I should also mention Scaled and Icy Part 2 is not dead either. I still need to edit a large chunk of it, but I am slowly making progress, which is better than none. I definitely plan to record and release more reactions soon because it is a format I love doing, but I would love to branch out a bit as well, like in this video, so be sure to leave feedback and potential video topics you'd like me to cover as well. With that all being said, this has been Super Wild Jellyfish, and may you strive to be your wild self. This took 20 minutes to record, holy shit.